And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Formula One. The Dutch Grand Prix is, as I knock my mic, sorry about my hair. Enough apologies. Is the championship on? Can Lando Norris realistically catch Max Verstappen? Short answer, probably not. Medium answer, could do. Long answer is if he and Piastri and maybe the Mercedes team get a kick up their proverbial backsides. That's pretty much the answer. So, how do we feel about it all? Well, I'm fairly excited, if I'm honest. But it was a good race, wasn't it? It wasn't the best race in the world. It wasn't the most exciting race in the world. But what it was is absolutely fantastic for Lando Norris. If you are a McLaren fan, you are going to be absolutely smiling from head to toe because you have a car now that is fastest. Now, and before we get into the actual race, I want to show you that this arguably, thanks to Lights Out, was one of the most dominant races in Formula One history this year. Not in Formula One, this year. So, biggest winning margin so far. Only just, though. 22.896 seconds from Lando Norris. 22.4 was Max Verstappen in Bahrain. 13.7 was Verstappen. 13.6 Verstappen. 12.5 Verstappen. Miami was 7.6. And Monaco Leclerc was 7.1. But 22.896 seconds. You can see it there. Clear as day. Lando Norris, the most dominant victory in Formula One in 2023. And that is pretty much quite the big deal. Simply because who saw that coming? Who's even at the beginning, even in Bahrain when Max Verstappen did 22.4 seconds, we figured that's going to be the norm. And then the teams have caught up. Or Red Bull's braking system. I guess we're going to have to see. So this is how they all finished. 26 points because Lando Norris right at the end. On the last lap, we all thought it was Lewis Hamilton had the thumbs up for the fastest lap. But no. It was Lando Norris. It reminded me, I think, of the time when Lewis Hamilton, right at the end of the British Grand Prix, on the hard tyres, did the fastest lap. Such was the dominance of his car. Such is the dominance here of Lando Norris, who wins. Max Verstappen second. Charles Leclerc hunting down Verstappen towards the end of the race. Not bad. That's quite cool, isn't it? Charles Leclerc in third, 25.4 seconds behind. Piastri fourth, yeah, a bit disappointing. We'll be talking about them in a bit. Carlos Sainz fifth. Sergio Perez in sixth. I think that's kind of, once again, a bit like qualifying, the minimum you want him to be. George Russell in seventh. Lewis Hamilton eighth. Gasly a lap down in ninth. Alonso 10th, the last of the point scorers. And we have Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Stroll, Albon, Ocon, Sargent, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Bottas and Zhou. Both stake F1 teams at the back. I was kind of hoping that they would be a bit better than that. They did need, though, one of those really, I think, unpredictable races in order to be good. So let's then get into our winners and losers for the Dutch Grand Prix. So let's just start at the back, shall we? And let's start with this man here, Zhou Guanyu. Oh, Zhou, wherefore art thou your pace? Him and Bottas. Is this man going to have a drive at the end of the year? Probably not, if I'm honest. It's kind of sad. I don't think he is. I'm surely, unless some kind of monetary value gets in there, he's most likely going to be dropped, isn't he? I think Bottas has more of a chance, but once again, they have a car. It is the worst car, I feel now, which we start to understand now why Seidel and the others were gone, even though he's proven, he laid the groundwork, arguably, for McLaren as they are today. Not that, McLaren is by no means a one-man team, but I'm just saying. So we've got Bottas there, and yeah, they have a car that's almost so far off the pace. It's really difficult to prove yourself. They're not quite at Williams 2019 levels because I feel like they can fight the cars in front, but disappointing. Really, really disappointing. so far this year. So we've also got Kevin Magnussen, who once again had a bit of an average race. He was holding people up, and then we had that very much 4 or 5 cars abreast as he was passed by, it seemed like half the grid, or at least a quarter of the grid, in what was quite an average race for excitement. But that bit was fairly exciting there. Somewhat disappointing. He didn't have a great start, this guy, and yes, he qualified ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, but Yuki Tsunoda, not particularly very good. It was just no. I mean, you got beaten by Logan Sargent. So, and let's talk about Logan Sargent, shall we? Logan Sargent, the man that crashed in P3, causing, I imagine, his Williams team to look at the monitor thinking, we're not going out for drinks tonight, boys. And there go his car, then blaze with fire. A lot of reports are suggesting that Logan Sargent will be gone by the Italian Grand Prix. Someone else will be in there new. I say, big pinch of salt. We reported on it yesterday in our quick news story. Could it happen? Yes, it could. Absolutely, it could happen. Will it happen? I'm not so sure. I think toss a coin, 50-50, if that's going to happen at all, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's Logan Sargent. So after Logan Sargent, we have got Esteban Ocon. Once again, Alpine having... they were kind of like the echelons of the top 10, but both Ocon, both Ocon and Pierre Gasly not doing particularly great, but Ocon 15th, I think he's going to be disappointed there. Remember, Alpine, albeit, yes, it was those mixed conditions, they did have a podium there last year, which is not too bad. And what I do want to give a special mention, though, to this man here, Alexander Albon. Now, we give him loads of praise, understandably. He's good. However, and this is the thing, we don't know how good he really, really is until now he goes up against Carlos Sainz. The last time he went up against a really decent driver, it was Max Verstappen. Okay, Max Verstappen was faster than him, albeit he was about as good as Perez is. And that was before Red Bull had an amazing car. Let's be honest. So we've got Alexander Albon. He started last, but then he ended up finishing 14th. He was in the points at one point because he pitted really early for the hards. It was looking okay, but I think realistically there's no way those hards were going to stay on as long as he did. I think Williams did the absolute best that they could do. I really feel sorry for James Vowles and the team, but I think a massive thumbs up there for Alexander Albon. Really, really good. So let's get into this man here. Didn't score any points. The reason why, most probably because he decided to speed in the pit lane. Easily done. Yes. Having said that, an F1 driver, no excuse. I mean, loads of other F1 drivers have done it before. Am I surprised it's Lance Stroll? No. But then, as I said, better people have done it. But yeah, he qualified quite near Alonso. The qualifying was quite good. And yeah, I mean, it's just that I can't... Aston Martin, like the 5th or 6th fastest team at the moment. So not particularly great. But I think someone who will be smiling after qualifying is this man here, Daniel Ricciardo. I do think he'll have at least half a grin coming out of there because, yes, his qualifying was bad, but I felt he had a really solid race. And realistically, given of where the car is at this track, I think that's about as fast and as good as Daniel Ricciardo would have done, given his, let's be fair, not particularly great qualifying position. So, but this man here, Hulkenberg. Now, here's the thing. Is Haas going to miss Hulkenberg with his performances? Yes, he didn't get a point, but he's 11th. He nearly got a point. And that's the thing. He gets it seems, both in qualifying a lot of the time and in the race, he seems to get the absolute most out of that car, bar none. So, whoops, so it was me. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think Haas are going to miss him, don't you? I think Haas are really going to miss him. We don't know what Ocon can do. We don't know what Behrman can do. But I'm just slightly concerned that Haas may well be ruining the day they let Hulkenberg go. I think, but then potentially Hulkenberg was going to go anyway. You know, maybe. So this man here scoring for Aston Martin, albeit just a 1 point, beaten by Pierre Gasly. So I think, bear in mind, he scored a point. He'd be relatively happy, but given who he got beaten by, maybe not. I mean, yeah. He wasn't going to beat the Mercedes and the Ferraris, the Red Bulls and the McLarens, but then he did get he did get beaten by this guy here, who once again I think this man got the absolute maximum out of that Alpine, finishing ahead of Alonso, albeit yes a lap down, but still not bad at all. I think he's got a lot to smile about. Well, who doesn't have a lot to smile about? It's the Mercedes team. So Lewis Hamilton finishing 8th. He was catching. It was catching Perez. Could he have passed? Well, I was about to lambast, absolutely think, what were Mercedes doing by pitting Hamilton when it was clear? They're just giving away points. Now, the caveat is, and the but, with a capital B, is Lewis Hamilton completely, according to Toto Wolff, Lewis Hamilton ruined his tyres. He locked up, the tyres were down to the canvas. At that point, he had no option but to pit. But then they pitted George Russell, I think, because they figured that Carlos Sainz was going to get him anyway. At some point, at the rate of knots, Carlos Sainz was going to pass him. The tyre wear wasn't particularly great. I say but. He finished 7th. Probably would have finished there anyway had you not pitted him. Carlos Sainz finished 5th. At one point, George Russell was 5th. This is the silly move of the day, I think, for poor George Russell, simply because he's there in 5th, and they can see how difficult it is for Piastri to pass Leclerc. So I reckon, bearing in mind Carlos Sainz was about a second behind, see how long he can hold up Carlos Sainz, if indeed he could pass Carlos Sainz, and see what happens. He still had a fairly big gap to Lewis. I don't know why they did. I think they just threw away points there for George Russell, unless some other news that I don't know about comes through. I just thought that was really, really strange. I wasn't happy about that at all for poor George Russell. So we've gone from George Russell to the man that finished second in the championship and is currently not second in the championship, Sergio Perez, who has had the best car for the first 7 races, didn't do too much, but here, once again, just like in qualifying, just like I said initially at the beginning of the video, when we were running down everybody and where they finished, Sergio Perez, I think that is about as good as he's going to do. I don't think Sergio Perez would have finished any higher with his, when you look at the difference between him and Max. Would Red Bull be happy? Moderately happy? Christian Horner was coming out and defending him all weekend, it seemed, against Sky Sports, when Natalie Pinkham was basically, why have you put Sergio Perez in the car? And Horner was like, well, who would you put in the car? And Natalie struck back with saying, I'm not the boss of the Red Bull team, and really doubled down on that, which I thought was quite interesting. Maybe we'll have a look at that in the Fallout video. But he's really defending Perez. And yes, I do get his point. Who would you put in the team? Well, you've got Ricciardo, who's probably like for like at this point. I don't know why you didn't give Tsunoda a chance. I don't think he's going to be worse than Perez. But Perez doing the absolute minimum I think Red Bull wanted him to do. But I can't help but feel probably should have beaten Carlos Sainz. And let's talk about the Ferraris, shall we? Let's start off with Sainz. What a race. What a race this man had. He absolutely. Bear in mind, he started outside the top 10. He qualified outside the top 10, didn't he? But he started 10th. He finished 5th. He had a good few passes. Kind of like, I think, Alexander Albon, and even kind of like Gasly. He did the absolute maximum he possibly could do. So massive props to Carlos Sainz. A really solid race. But here, this man here. Now, I know Lando did a really good race. Almost perfect, bearing in mind that first lap. But I think man of the race for me is Charles Leclerc. I believe he absolutely outperformed that Ferrari and gave as good as he got. We all thought, when I was watching it, myself and my brother were watching it together, along with my mum, because that's what we do. And we were convinced, okay, it's going to be at least a McLaren 1-3, maybe a McLaren 1-2 if Piastri can get close. But Leclerc, looking after his tyres, it might have been that Piastri wasn't as good as looking after his tyres as Norris. We know that has been an issue. He finished 27 seconds behind Norris, something that he's going to be a bit upset about. But we're getting to Piastri. We've spoken in a second. We finished 4th. I've just realised I've gone from Sainz to Leclerc. But what an absolutely stunning race that Charles Leclerc had. The man of the race, bar none. The second closest was Lando Norris. Got the absolute most out of that Ferrari. So, let's speak about Piastri, yeah? This man here, the man from Australia. Australia's best chance of a winner throughout this year, and maybe a championship next year. He was disappointed with qualifying third, and I think he'll be disappointed once again, going back even. We all thought maybe a McLaren 1-2 at least, a minimum should have been third. He didn't do it. I don't know why. When he looks at his teammate, he has absolutely got the pace. Fantastic. However, he's got the pace, but I don't feel that he had the one lap pace. But I don't feel he had looking after the tyre wear. It just seemed to kind of go away. He was catching, wasn't he, Leclerc? Fairly, at a fairly rate of knots. But then sadly, really sadly, he didn't make it. And then he just started falling back a bit. And we thought, I was kind of having my fingers crossed for an attack on Leclerc on the last couple of laps, but it really didn't happen. Would he, if he had got past Leclerc, would he have got Verstappen? Bearing in mind the pace we saw at the beginning of the race and now towards the end, I don't think he would have done. I think Verstappen did a really fair job. So let's talk about Max, shall we? And here he is. There is Mr. Verstappen. I think Max Verstappen did a really solid job. 22.8 seconds, it's going to be massively concerning for Red Bull. It's got to the point now where today you could make a good argument that Ferrari were the second fastest car, with maybe Mercedes, third, fourth, maybe behind Red Bull. Red Bull was not the fastest car. I mean, in the hands of Norris, that McLaren, best car-driver combination, bar none today. Max did his absolute best. He got a good start, better than Lando Norris. I mean, I was looking at Lando and I was like, oh no, here we go, choke Norris once again. But no, he went from choke Norris to Chuck Norris, come about lap 18. But Max, I don't know what more we could have done. He got a good start. He got it out of the DRS zone, and he maintained between 1.2 to 1.5, 1.8 seconds, between 1 and 2 seconds throughout the first few laps, and then kind of like maintained it until the late teens, and that's when Norris came back and ended up passing him. Then Max kept him in the DRS zone, had like half a go, sort of, the next lap around, and then I think the tyre wear ended up just being too much. Now, bearing in mind, tyre wear here was always going to be an issue, simply because the amount of rain we've had in Zandvoort this weekend. When the track is green, that's always going to affect the tyre wear. The tyres are always going to wear a lot more. I mean, that's just a fact. And maybe Red Bull were susceptible to this. Andrea Stella came out and said that McLaren, this was a really, really good track for McLaren. And that's the reason why Lando Norris, I think, ended up winning. He fluffed the start. He went from choke Norris to Chuck Norris in between lap 1 and lap 18. Nice pass. Max wasn't really silly. He did have that one jink where you thought, oh no, here we go. Bear in mind it's a home race. I thought maybe he'd do a map, but he was fairly sensible. You can make an argument too sensible in there. Max could not have been fairer. Nothing to say to that. I felt a bit sorry for him, really, that Red Bull didn't really have an answer. Maybe go on to a 2-stop, but Max Verstappen couldn't have really realistically gone on to a 2-stop, simply because at that point, around the first pit stops, the field was far too compact, and he maybe would have lost a lot of time trying to pass other drivers. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But Lando Norris takes the victory by 22.8 seconds. As we've said, the biggest difference between first and second so far this year. So he'd made history this year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in Monza. It's a completely different circuit. We know that Red Bull is fast in a straight line with their DRS, albeit the downforce is so low at Monza. DRS isn't really such a big deal as it is to tracks at Zandvoort, Spain, even other tracks, etc. However, well done, Lando. Yeah, the important thing is, after he fluffed the start, he kept his head, he kept it cool, and I can't help but feel he must have been quite confident. He was in the dirty. He didn't push too soon, and then he just felt the more we got into the mid-teens and then the late teens, he got more and more confident, and they just went for it. McLaren, I think the Piastri strategy wasn't particularly good. I see why they did it, because they realised they're gonna come out behind a few people after their first pit stop in the hope that Piastri did it. Piastri's disappointing for McLaren today. Lando Norris very much not. And this was something that I feel that Lando Norris absolutely needed to prove. He needed to prove he could beat Max. And we said here on our qualifying show, if he beats Max Verstappen on his home ground, potentially the championship is on. Potentially, because it's a good 70 points plus. He's going to need all the help he can get. At this point, surely you've got to think now, going into the next race, it's team orders. Now, if you lose by less than 4 points, we're going to go back to Hungary, aren't we, and go, oh my gosh. But surely now, going into the next race, where they can now, bearing in mind the lack of Piastri space, I'd put team orders in the second. The only concern I've got, in kind of like a horrifying way, is looking further down the line. If Lando misses it out by within like 10, even 20 points, you have to look at Hungary, bad start, Spain, bad start, Belgium, bad start, and look that maybe Lando really stuffed himself there for a potential championship, but maybe he'll get a chance next year. But I mean, McLaren are looking very, very, very close, aren't they, for the championship? I mean, it's kind of like it's right within 30 points in it or something like that, isn't it? I think it's not great. I'm just clicking away now to try and find the results for the teams. I'm gonna hopefully, can I share it? There we go. Let's quickly share the screen for the teams. I mean, here we go. So Red Bull Racing on 434, McLaren on 404, 30 points in it. It was like 40 something, wasn't it? So Ferrari not a million miles away either. I mean, bear in mind on today, I don't think Mercedes are going to be doing too much. Kind of embarrassing, really, isn't it? McLaren, the works team, vying for the constructors, where Mercedes are struggling there. It reminds me of the old Red Bull when Red Bull had the Renault engines, and Renault had their Renault engines as well. And we're getting ruined. Yeah, so it's not too far to go, but let's have a look. Oh no, whoops-a-daisy. Let's have a look at those Drivers' Championships, shall we? Go to results. There we go. And then go down. Oh, no, it's not working at all. Okay. One of mine. But the Drivers' Championship has closed up a bit as well, which is not too bad. So, there we go. This pretty much has been the hot lap. This has been the Dutch Grand Prix review, where we do believe the championship is somewhat on. I do think Max Verstappen is going to have to look over his shoulder more and more. Thank you very much. If you want to see more, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that notification button so you do not miss a video, and we will no doubt speak to you soon. I just want to say thank you very much, and yeah, speak to you soon. At this point, I need to really press the right button to go, don't I? Absolutely. Take two.